Nobody talks about this phase, but it's the phase that we all go through in life where nothing looks like it's working, but everything is actually changing. You're not where you used to be, but you're also not where you want to be. And that space in between is uncomfortable, it's quiet, it's very lonely. And oftentimes it forces us to question ourselves. Are we doing enough? Are we doing the right things? Is this thing ever going to work? So today we're going to be breaking down the quiet phase that we all have to go through in life before our life actually changes. And the reason why most people quit right here. The truth is this: we have to realize that no matter how perfect we might want our life to go or be, there's always going to be this in between phase. The phase where you have outgrown your old habits, you've matured, or you're trying to become a different version of yourself, but your life may not have caught up to the vision in which you can see. So oftentimes, this place that we are put in, it makes us uncomfortable because it feels like we're stuck. But the reality is, we're really transitioning from being the old person and preparing ourselves for the new person. But that is hard because nobody really understands it. This is where most people get confused. I'm not a person that really understands it either, but I wanted to question why I felt the way that I did in specific situations. And it came down to the simple fact that I know what my potential is. I know who I am capable of becoming. But in this time right now, I'm in a battle with my old self. It's like a me versus me type of thing. Like, you're trying to become a new version of yourself, but you have to fight the old version of yourself. And the old version of yourself is comfortable. The old version of yourself is happy. It may not be content, but it's happy because it has gotten to a place where you understand what life looks like. But a lot of the times we're not necessarily happy with how life looks. We always want to pursue more. We want to be able to do more. So the truth is, when we're in this position and it feels like we're stuck, we're really transitioning, but transitioning is confusing because it's new. It's not something that anybody else will understand. And most of the time, if you're a person that has a vision, only you can be able to see that vision because God put that vision on your heart. So although the people around you might be able to, pick up on some of the things you might be good at, some things that might make you different, possibilities for what it is that you might be able to create, they can't see the full version of who you're trying to become. And only you can see glimpses of that full version. But even we can't see every single part of why am I actually going through this phase in life and what is it actually being able to teach me? And that's what makes it lonely. But something that I realize is like the teacher's always quiet during the test, meaning God is going to be quiet in the times where he's testing your faith. He's trying to test whether or not you believe in something that you can see, but it's not in the physical reality yet. How strong is your belief? How strong is your work ethic behind your belief? And are you going to remain consistent in the times where the motivation runs out? The discipline is no longer exciting. Like, it's not cool to do this anymore because we're not getting any type of real gratification or any type of real praise in the specific moment. That's a hard place to be in because it's not that God is punishing us, he's preparing us. And oftentimes we don't understand what we are being prepared for, although we asked for something specific. When we ask for a blessing, God gives it to us in the form of a cake. And I like to look at it like this. I always use this analogy. When you ask God for blessings, he gives you it in the form of the ingredients of the cake. So imagine we're trying to bake a cake, but a lot of us think that once we ask for it, the cake is just supposed to be given to us. Like, it's already made, everything's already done. But the way that God gives it to you is in the form of the ingredients where you have to go in and you have to prepare it yourself. And if you've never made a cake before, then you don't understand how the cake should be made, what temperature you need to put it on, what ingredients to mix where, how do I get this particular taste like this? How do I get the cake to be moist? How long should I keep it in the oven? Like, these are all different questions. And this is similar to the life that we actually have. When we ask for something, God gives it to us in the form of the work. He gives it to us in the form of the transitions that we have to go through. He doesn't give it to us in the form of it already, are we already being ready and capable of receiving it right then in that moment. But a lot of people don't understand that it takes time and it's a process for you to become the version of yourself that you're asking to be. So in that in between phase where you're outgrowing your old self, you can see your new self, but life hasn't caught up yet because your habits has not matched the person that you're trying to become. The shift in focus that we have to have is we got to understand that that's exactly where God wants you to be. Why? Because he wants you to trust you. He wants it to feel quiet. He wants it to feel uncomfortable. He wants you to not know what to do. But a lot of people in that moment, they depend on themselves and they depend on what they currently know. And what they currently know is this isn't really working right now. So let me go and start doing something else. Let me go and start over. Or just let me not do anything at all. Let me just go through the cycles of life and just one day my day is going to come. But eventually we get to a day and it's like you're not happy with where it is that you are. And you look back at all of the time that you feel like you have wasted. I'm a person that always wanted to question my own feelings and my own emotions. And when I'm in that phase of life where I know that I'm transitioning because I have the awareness of what transitioning looks like, it still feels heavy. So I wanted to know, like, why is it that it feels heavy? Why is the pressure feeling heavy in the moments where I know that I'm not who I used to be, but I'm not quite fully the person that I want to be? And the pressure that I put on myself in between to become that version that I can see, why does that actually feel so heavy? Well, the truth is this. It feels heavy because in the phase where you're going through and you're doing the work, you're not really getting any type of validation. You might be the person that's validating yourself, but eventually it's like even the most optimistic person in the world still has some type of doubts. You can be a glass half full type of woman or a type of guy and still wonder what if, because that's just human nature. But the reason why it feels so heavy is because there's no validation and sometimes there's no immediate results. So when we can't necessarily get the validation, meaning the praise or the recognition from the things that we're actually doing, and we're not able to get the immediate results, this becomes a burden or a pressure that we put on ourselves because you're doing the work, but the results, we just cannot see it yet. And that's tough. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like I go through that on a day-to-day basis, just trying to build out my brand on YouTube. Deep down inside, I know the version that I can see of myself is to lead and impact people, millions of lives, being able to help them be able to spark something in their minds and change the way that they perceive life so that they can go out here and accomplish the things that they desire. Although I can see the version of myself that is that, at the same time, I know who I used to be. So as I'm transitioning, I'm going through, it feels like nothing is moving. It feels like I'm not doing anything, but I know that I'm doing way more than I used to. And that is something that is tough because oftentimes when you're not getting that validation or you're not getting the immediate results that you're looking for, that's quiet. Like that puts you in a quiet place. And that silence is something that makes us doubt ourselves. It makes us question ourselves because we're asking the questions, but we're not getting any type of answers. We're looking and trying to take the action, but we don't know if the action that we're taking is getting us the results that we're looking for. Not only did I question why it felt so heavy, I had to also try to see the good in the situations where I felt like I wasn't necessarily making results. And the only way that I was able to, or I am able to, continue to show up and put my best foot forward is the simple fact that I know that, hey, I may not be there yet, but if I stop doing what it is and I'm doing it, I'll never be able to get there. But in those phases where life is quiet, where life is silent, when you're doubting yourself, when you are asking the questions, but you're not necessarily receiving any of the answers, there's a form of growth that is happening, and it is a hidden growth. And that hidden growth is the growth that comes in the form of how you think now. You're thinking differently. You're moving differently. You're a lot more aware than you were before. So that within itself is a form of growth that you and we all should be happy or we should all be happy for and about. But we want to pursue the overall big win, which is why we feel like we're not there yet or we're never going to get there, because we are so fixated on the overall bigger picture, the bigger vision that we can see. And if we're not at that particular moment yet, we feel like we are not doing enough. But you got to start appreciating the hidden growth that you're going through. Like I said, the ability that you think differently now, the simple fact that you're more aware than you were before, your standards have changed. You're not the same person that you used to be. So you have had an internal shift that happened, and it was required to happen before the external changed in any type of way. It took such a long time for me to understand this, because I just always used to move off the external, what it is that I can see. I'm going out here and I'm doing work, and if I'm not getting paid for the work, then it seems like it is not working. But that's just how we were conditioned to think. That's how we were conditioned to move. From the age of 4 or 5 years old, when they first enrolled us in pre-K and kindergarten, we were prepared for this very moment now, the moment of external validation. Meaning we go through and we do something and we immediately get rewarded for it. We get the praise, we get the recognition. If you do something, if you get good grades, you get a gift or whatever the case may be. In school, you're rewarded for having good grades. At work, you're rewarded for, okay, like all it did was transition into the work life. Like now we go to work for 40 hours a week, and in 2 weeks we get a paycheck, and that says that your work was good enough. But as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's trying to build a life and tap into their creative side, the creative side isn't necessarily anything in life is not necessarily guaranteed. But when you actually pursue your creative side, the side where it's like you're trying to build something for yourself, that area right there, there's no guarantees. There's only a commitment to being able to change and to being able to show up. So when you do things, you can go out here and you can be working for weeks and months at a time, but you can't necessarily see the results right then and there. So your mind, because of the way that we've been programmed, we don't think that we're doing anything because we don't get the immediate results. We're not getting the validation. We're not getting the praise. We're not getting the currency in return for what it is that we've done. So naturally, because we've been programmed and conditioned that way, we're going to start looking at life as the things on the external has to change in order for my life to change. But that's further from the truth, because the only way that the external changes is through the internal. And that was the power that they took away from a lot of us, and a power that stops a lot of us from growing because we're so fixated on the external. When I get this money, I'm going to do this. When I can be able to be in this position or get this job, then I'll be able to do this. When I don't have these bills anymore, then I'll be able to do this. But in the same token that we are trying to focus on the external changing, the currency isn't changing as much. So like we're going through the flows of life, and that's why they call it the rat's race, because we're just going through the circles thinking that eventually one day we're going to feel ready. One day things are going to be better for us. One day everything's just going to make sense. But then you look up and years have gone by and you haven't necessarily changed because you were waiting for a miracle to happen, not realizing that you create your miracle on the inside first. And it starts with the way that you think, but it's transferred through the way that you act based off of the way that you think. You have to see it before you can have it. You got to visualize yourself having it. You have to see, you have to touch, and you got to go and obtain it. But the only way for you to be able to grow or be able to feel like you're growing is to understand the hidden forms of growth. The standards that you set, the awareness that you have, the way that you think, those are the forms of growth that actually are important. And that's what actually matters the most. Now, the reason why most people quit in the in-between phase of, growing from who it is that they used to be into the person that they desire to be, most people quit because they feel like nothing is happening. Like it's all emotional most of the time. So when you feel like nothing is happening, what you're naturally going to do is you're going to go back to comfort. And when you go back to comfort, all you're doing is you are stopping your momentum before the momentum even gets built. And the only way for you to be able to grow is by being able to compound some type of momentum through actions, through just stacking your days, through trying to just get better day by day. They mistake the silent part of life for failure. And that's why they quit. Because when they're not getting the external validation, when they're not getting paid for the things that they are doing right now, and they're sitting in their silence and wondering the what if, the silence is creating the doubt, you start to believe the doubt and you feel like it's a form of failure. But the only way for you to fail is by you not showing up. Because failure is just an attempt in learning. No matter how many attempts it's going to take. Like, I look at it like this. I go out here and I take risks because I know that one or two things can happen. Either I take the risk and I get what I wanted, or I take the risk and I learn about what I need to do in order for me to get what I want. Most people don't take the risk because they're afraid of losing or afraid of looking bad. But how can you be great if you don't know how to be bad or know what not to be bad at? The people that are the greatest, they have transformed the bad into good and the good into great. So it's the same exact thing with you, but it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through time. So don't be a person that, because things are not like, you're not getting the answers or what it is that you're looking for right now, God is not talking back to you. You're asking for things, but things doesn't seem like they're happening. Like you're just going through this flow of life and you're sitting stuck or feeling stuck because deep down inside, you know where you can be, but you also know where you used to be. And you're in between that gap right there. Don't quit because you're not getting external validation right now. You're not seeing the results that you feel like you should be seeing. Because when you quit, that's when you truly fail. But if you continue to show up, then there's no way for you to fail. There's only room for you to improve and room for you to be able to grow. So what do you do when you're in the phase of life where you feel like you're stuck because you're transitioning from who you used to be into the person that you're trying to be? You have the heavy burden that you put on yourself that I got to get this thing done right now. And you question or doubt yourself time to time. Like, what do you do in this phase? How can you be able to not feel this way? As easy and as simple as it may be, it is also hard to be able to grasp that the only way for you to get out of this transition period, this phase of being stuck in between, the quiet phase, you have to keep showing up. And you have to start focusing on small wins. The reason why you feel like you're stuck is because you haven't appreciated the small things, like the way that you're thinking has changed. The way that you perceive life has changed. The standards that you have set have changed. The awareness that you have about yourself has changed. We don't look at those things as wins because we don't necessarily see those forms of things because it's all on the internal. So the wins that you have to appreciate and start celebrating are the small wins that come in the form of those things. And when you start to focus on the small wins, you start to look at life and you're able to trust the process without any type of immediate proof. Like, you understand that this is where I'm going. And although I might not be able to get the proof right now, right then and there, it's still going to be able to happen. You have to be able to, and this is another perspective that I always like to use. None of us can look at a naked sun or look at the sun naked with our own eyes and be able to see it come up and come down. We can't see or feel the earth moving, but we all know that the earth is always moving. It's always rotating around the sun, the moon, like it's always rotating. When it's cold here or wherever it is that you are, it's hot somewhere else. Like seasons change, like all of this is happening before our eyes. Like it's happening, but we can't see it immediately. But that does not necessarily mean that we don't believe in it. Your life is the same exact way. Although you might not be able to look at the sun and see the sun go up and go down, you can still notice the small changes that happen without us just seeing the immediate reaction or the immediate proof. So your life is literally when you're trying to do things, although you may not see yourself progressing, the growth in the progression happens after a time period has gone by and you're able to track the difference for where it was versus where you are right now. And that's what we have to continue to remain consistent with. And you got to stay consistent even when it feels quiet, even when you're not getting the answers from anybody else, even when God is forcing you to be silent. Because a lot of the times, most people don't grow because they don't know how to be silent, because they don't understand that being silent requires you to listen. I wish that I could write it down right now for you guys to be able to see it, but practice this with me. Write down the word silent and write down the word listen, and you will see that it is the same exact letters, which means when God is putting you in the silent phase in life, he is requiring you to listen to him. And although you may not be able to hear his voice, he wants you to depend on him and have faith in him and trust in him to know that he has it figured out, even though you may not understand it in this moment. The teacher already has the answers to the test, but he's not going to give you the answers to the test in the moment of you taking the test. He's giving you the answers in preparation, in the transitioning, in the silent moments where you're saying, look, man, I would much rather go back to being the person that I was than to feel stuck and uncomfortable in this situation because it's quiet and I don't understand. So if you want to be able to grow, if you want to be able to have some type of success, you gotta it's really simple, man. Like you just have to show up. You got to continue to put your best foot forward, and you got to believe that one day is going to become your day. And overnight success might take 10 years for you to be able to have it, but it's going to look like it's overnight once everything starts to click. None of us knows when that day is going to come, but that day is already written for you. So the reason why you need to continue to show up and remain consistent is so that you can be able to get to that day and finally receive the things that you've been asking for. So in conclusion, for this particular message, just because things are quiet, it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily working. You're not stuck. You're in the phase that you need to be in right before everything happens. So you got to continue to keep your glass filled all the way up, not half full, completely full. Having the mentality that this is going to work. This is going to be me. I am going to become the version that I am working towards. I am not who I used to be, but I am becoming who I want to be. You got to have that mentality and understand that this is where most people quit. Most people don't ever make it through this part, but I know that you can. And as long as you continue to show up and put your best foot forward, you will eventually find your way. So that's going to go ahead and conclude this particular message. I had a lot of fun in this one. If you did, let me know in the comments below what it is that you like best. And until the next video, peace.